And when it comes time to retire, we're going to be there for you. We're going to be there for the basic needs. That's been a rock-solid guarantee, an ironclad commitment. Generations of Americans have counted on it, and it works. The number of elderly people living in poverty has plummeted since Social Security was created. It's transformed millions of people's lives. Here in Florida, 21% of the people are over the age of 65. It's the second highest of any state in the country as a percent of their state. Some are people of means, but the vast majority live day to day relying on Social Security and Medicare, and maybe a little help from their families.
Action has been taken by lawmakers. More and more people are now agreeing to provide financial relief to the state residents, and this is from the governors. If you could receive extra stimulus cash, you'll be getting it very soon. During the crisis, the federal government already authorized stimulus checks, which helped millions upon millions of people. The money went to eligible Americans, and new data now suggests that it has made an everlasting impact on the financial lives of individuals across the country. Specifically, data from the Federal Reserve has revealed a major increase in the aggregate amount of cash that Americans have on hand. But you may be able to still claim more money. Living in the state of Virginia will be able to receive a couple $100 extra before the year is out. The state of Virginia is offering rebates to people who owe tax liability from a 2021 rebate of up to $250 for people who file individually and up to $500 for lone filers. Anyone who has not filed income taxes in 2022 isn't eligible to receive the rebate. The State Department of Taxation said in an official statement, tax liability is the amount of tax you owe throughout the year, minus any credits, deductions, or subtractions. So if a person owes money to a state or local agency, they said in an official statement that such services and the tax department will use the person's rebate to pay off the debt before sending what is left to the filer. In this case, where all the rebate is used to pay off the debt, the department will send a letter to the filer informing them where the money was directed. The one-time rebates funded with surplus revenues in the state were made possible after a plan approved in June as part of the state's budget. The Virginia governor said that it included a plan for the rebates in his final budget proposal just before leaving office at the start of 2022. Now, the new governor of Virginia said the legislation was passed and it will be getting everybody stimulus checks in the next coming months, all the way until the end of September of next year, 2023. So there's also important breaking news on unemployment in the United States. Illinois only added around 3,600 jobs in October, a drastic drop in growth coming from amid persistent inflation and rising recession fears. Unemployment has led the nation. Illinois' unemployment rate has increased again, up 0.1% to 4.6 in October, the highest in the nation for a second month straight, and nearly a percentage point higher than the national rate of 3.7. Now, Illinois already added just 3,600 jobs in October. That's actually fewer than in September. Because everybody, according to a press release, the argument strengthens that the state's trust fund alleviates a burden looming over businesses and ensures that there are no deductions in both the standard number of weeks of unemployment benefits and the amount a person can claim. So, the governor announced an agreement to pay the state of Illinois a $36 billion unemployment insurance allowance balance. This bipartisan agreement will save taxpayers an estimated $20 million in interested costs that will be due next September. Economists said Illinois' restrictive crisis policies and the use of federal enhanced unemployment benefits will result in a sluggish recovery. But during the crisis, the federal government did provide funds to states just to increase the amount of unemployment benefits paid out by $300 a week for each recipient. They doubled unemployment benefits and people received a lot of more stimulus cash. So folks, the Federal Reserve just continues to take a measure to fight inflation. It recently raised the interest rates again by 75 points, and they are expected to raise it again by another 75 next month in December and January 2023. So despite months of rate hikes and inflation has remained stubbornly high at 8.2%, fueling
average payment. The move will be welcome news not only to seniors, but some 4 million children who also receive benefits. However, the future of Social Security is uncertain. A report earlier this year suggested it could become insolvent by 2035.
Experts estimate recipients can expect an even larger increase, between 8 and 10%. So, yes, Social Security's cost of living adjustment is expected to be higher than average in 2023. The exact dollar amount varies by person, but if the Senior Citizens League's estimate of a 9.6% increase is correct, then the average recipient could.
We have a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI. You want to continue watching this video because we have a ton of news to cover. So many financial experts attribute the sharp increase in Americans' checking account balances during the crisis to stimulus checks. The U.S. Bureau of Statistics has released data, and it shows the savings rate had climbed 70% in 2020 during the heart of the crisis. What this means is that stimulus checks are going out, and people are getting the stimulus money that they called for. The stimulus checks were sent out had around $0.5 trillion in total, so in fact, Americans have grown their net worth by much more than that, and suggests that many people use the money more wisely to grow their net worth over time. So, the good news is stimulus checks are continuing to be delivered on a state level. In fact, almost half of the US states have provided some additional funds to be eligible for residents this year. This means that those who keep using the cash from the government can hopefully help to ensure that the combined amount of money in Americans' checking accounts just keeps growing over time. The Virginia governor, for instance, had already announced that residents with a tax liability in 2021 are eligible to receive a one-time rebate. It's a single $250 for single filers and $500 for joint filers. To be eligible, residents must have filed there before November and have had a 2021 tax liability. Those who file receive the rebate within 4 months of their file date, and according to the governor's office, rebates are being processed on a first-in, first-out basis. If you receive a tax refund by direct deposit this year, you'll likely receive your rebate by direct deposit as well. Otherwise, the Virginia General Assembly will mail your paper check. It's very important to know that states continue to provide more relief to residents, as millions of people continue to try and combat economic pressure. And comment if you have already received your fourth stimulus payment, because I know many of you guys are wondering when you will receive your fourth stimulus check. Well, California has already pulled out a stimulus payment, everybody. California's inflation relief program payments will continue to be sent out through January. This will all depend on how you filed your 2020 income tax return and whether you received the same amount of money in your bank account that you did via direct deposit. It can make a difference between a direct deposit or a physical debit card that will arrive in the mail. If you change your bank account or bank account number from when you have electronically filed your 2020 tax return, you might have to wait a little bit longer. Your payments will still arrive though in a debit card from December 17th to January 14th. You'll begin the stimulus money, but we might need to be a little bit patient with this. California has already paid over $5 billion to 19 million eligible residents and their families as part of an inflation relief program meant to help soften the blow of rising costs. The latest figures represent more than half of the total payouts expected under the program, with the balance of the payments expected to reach eligible residents through the start of next year. The middle class tax refund aims to pay $9.5 billion to eligible Californians, from $200 to $1,000. And also, let's not forget about this. To be eligible, you must